It does seem better. Say something else.
I'm hoping that the audio works better this time.
Okay, the audio works better, so if everybody can turn their camera back on. All we're missing is Mr. Wilson, I think. Okay, if you'd like to proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. So in terms of reimbursements, we do not believe that this would be appropriate. The mortgage payments were only made for a few months. There were no orders preventing the other parties from utilizing the home. There was no interim support payment made for my client the entire period of time. There is an SBA loan that is entirely in my client's name, but this loan was taken out during the marriage. The parties were aware of the SBA loan. And a lot of
I'm so sorry. My dog is crying right now. Can I just put him outside? Her outside?
Yes, and you need to mute.
I'm so sorry.
Somebody else had tried to log in as you, Mr. Sant, but
Oh, that would be my paralegal, Your Honor. We swapped computers.
Very confusing, but all right, your paralegal, I've admitted. We'll wait for Miss Wilson to get back, and she needs to keep herself in the. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Sant.
Thank you. The SBA loan was taken out during the marriage, Your Honor. Both parties were aware of this. A lot of the funds of the SBA loans were used to actually pay off a lot of the community debts that they had at the time. There are some medical bills that were sustained by my client post date of separation, but my client will testify that these were for injuries that were caused at the hand of Mr. Wilson. She'll also testify that at the date of separation, they had insurance. They were not told that the insurance was canceled, and that's why they incurred so much separate property debt with those bills. My client is asking for support. Mr. Wilson earns almost $11,000 a month. My client makes close to $2,600 net. My client was injured at the hand of Mr. Wilson. She's getting older. COVID's affected her job. She doesn't have a whole lot of earning potential. Mr. Wilson, on the other hand, has a great job, is living pretty lavishly based on his expenses, and he has the ability to contribute to help support Ms. Wilson. She's also asking for attorney's fees. Once again, we believe that she has the right to equal quality representation as Mr. Wilson. She has not received any interim support. She has not had the ability to pay.
Before we begin with evidence, let me make a couple of comments. The fact that nobody went and got temporary orders is what it is. All the money that's been spent since people have been separated is community property. I doubt there's going to be any basis upon which there could be a reimbursement for a mortgage payment. Secondly, Mr. Sant, in order for me to award spousal support, I have to show that she doesn't have the ability to provide for her minimum reasonable needs, taking into account all the money that she's to be awarded by way of the property division. It's a pretty high burden if she's making any money at all. Keep that in mind as you put on your evidence. It's not that she gets spousal support because he makes more money than she. It may be that goes to something else about the division, but that is what the statute says very plainly. So I'm going to have to look at how much money she's going to get when we sell the house or retirement. And then I'm going to have to find that she has no ability to provide for her minimum reasonable needs. That's the requirement under the statute. So with that, Ms. Combs, you may call your first witness.
Yes, Judge, I called Jeremy Wilson.
Mr. Wilson, if you'd unmute yourself and raise your right hand to be sworn. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, Judge.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Mr. Wilson, can you state your full name for the record?
Jeremy Allen Wilson.
And are you asking for a divorce today?
Yes, I am.
And have you been a resident of Travis County for at least 6 months prior to filing there?
Yes, ma'am.
And are there any minor children of the marriage?
No, as you indicated, our daughter is almost 21. She's over 20 years old. Only child we have.
Are there any children expected of the marriage?
Negative.
Is there any bankruptcy pending?
Not as far as I know, not on my side.
Okay. And how old is your adult child?
She's 20. She'll be 21 in August.
Okay, and did Mrs. Wilson, was she a stay-at-home mom?
No, she's always had a career since I met her in 2001. In fact, she's been quite proud of. She's had a successful salon business, self-employed.
Do you know about how much she makes?
And when we separated in 2011, we separated all checking accounts.
2011 or 2021? Hold on.
We separated in 2011 for 6 months, and since then we've had separate checking accounts and separate credit cards. So while I don't know exactly how much she makes. I know that it's well over the 2,600 and well over the 5,000 that she put on her offer sheet, the formal offer that was filed. And yes, she has some long-term clients that she's pretty proud of.
Okay, when you say the offer she filed, are you referring to her disposition of issues with her income information?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And were you aware of this SBA loan?
No, I was not. I did not sign off on it, and I wasn't aware of it until this case came up.
Okay. And since 2011, did she stay at home with your child, or she was working the entire time?
No, she worked at least 4 days a week, and yeah, she's always been proud of her career, that she could support herself. I remember her saying, she doesn't need a man in her life, so she's always had a career. I do, yes, ma'am.
All right, and who paid the community bills, like the mortgage and utilities?
Because we had separate checking accounts.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to stop. Are you reading anything, Mr. Wilson?
No.
Because no one is allowed to refer to any notes when they testify. All right. I just want to
Judge, I wrote down some things before this.
You don't get to refer to whatever. You don't get to refer to any notes. No one who's testifying may refer to any notes while they're testifying.
I'm sorry, I haven't been through this before.
That's fine.
I'll make sure I'm looking at the camera. I apologize for that. I'm sorry, what was the question at hand?
The question was who paid the community property, such as the mortgage payments and utilities while you were
there? So the way that was handled would be that that would come out of my account, and she would reimburse me for half. She would give me checks or Venmo or other things, or put the money towards other bills such as car insurance, groceries, and gas. It's been mostly 50-50 in our marriage since we got married. And sometimes it was 60-40, but she's always contributed to the family.
Okay. And when did you separate this time around?
I left at the end of March of last year.
Okay. And why did you leave?
I was forced out of the home. We've been having a lot of fights and disagreements. It doesn't really matter who started them, but we just weren't having a healthy relationship. It had gotten quite toxic. There were a number of occasions where I was kicked out of the home, locked out, had my keys, phone taken, things of that nature, and was threatened. She threatened to call the police. She threatened to have me fired, and she'd become upset and irate. And a lot of times I would just go to my mother's to let things cool down. And there were some incidents that happened leading up to that, but irregardless, that's really why I left for good, was I felt like I wouldn't be able to live with her and be safe.
Was there any physical abuse during your marriage?
Yes.
Okay, can you describe that?
Yes, I can. I know for a fact that her and my daughter got in a fight when Izzy was underage, was 16. And she actually was physical with my daughter. My daughter went over to my mother's house rather than calling the police. And I had some similar experiences where she would become irate. She kicked holes in the bedroom door. She's hit me before. She's thrown things at me. She threw a fan at me, hit me in the head. She pulled a sword on me, and she broke glasses and did a lot of things. There was also an incident in Galveston where she was arrested for public intoxication. And on the drive down there, she tried to open the car door and jump out, and also ripped the rearview mirror off the car and hit me with it. And there was a lot of things like that that unfortunately transpired prior to me leaving. And I just kept hoping that things would get better. You know, we were married for 20 years. You know, I wish things weren't like that. I really do. I felt like it was my duty and responsibility to stay and fix things, but I just couldn't do it anymore, especially with our daughter being grown and in college now, or was in college before all this started.
Okay, did you ever physically harm her?
No.
Okay, so when you separated last year, who was paying all the who's paying the community property and community debt?
As I said, you know, we had separate debt and separate credit cards, so we were using our own funds from our work to pay for that. And we had a division where, you know, we would kind of, you know, split up the mortgage, the rent, the groceries, the gas, the insurance, you know, things for Izzy. I'll say towards the end, it was probably more 60-40. She did, so, you know, it's like I said, it's mostly been 50-50, but towards the end, it was more of a 60-40 split where I was trying to be a little bit more generous to help with all the fights and issues we were having financially and emotionally and everything else.
Okay. And do you currently have retirement?
You know, I do. I did 25 years total in the Army. I retired recently. So I have a 20-year letter that says because it's a reserve retirement, and when I reach age 60, I will receive a reserve retirement. So it's not the normal 20 years on active duty, but it is a retirement that I'm, you know, quite proud that I earned. And then as far as retirement, I work for the state. I haven't been there 9 years, but when you reach 10 years with the state, you are vested, and then it's the rule of 80. It's the employee's retirement system. And so it's your age plus your years of service equals 80. You get a pension similar to the military. So
Can I stop you and ask the attorneys here? They're both defined benefit retirements. Is that correct, attorneys?
That is correct.
Why wouldn't both of those retirements be divided by quadro according to the formula? The number of months of marriage over the number of months. I mean, Mr. Wilson hasn't testified yet if the entire 25 years he was in the reserve was during the marriage, but is there any reason that the retirement shouldn't be divided by way of quadro?
No, Judge.
We're in agreement.
Okay, that's real easy. So now, I don't know, Ms. Combs, you might want to put on some testimony to establish how much of the 25 years he was in the military is community time and how much was separate time.
Okay, Judge, I don't think that's necessary, Mr. Sampson agreement that we just divide it.
Well, if they've been married, if they weren't married during the entire time he was in the military, some of it is not community. So you need to establish how much of the time he was in the military he was married and how much of the time he wasn't married. Or if it was all community, that will make it easier.
Okay, Judge. Mr. Wilson, how long were you in the military?
I enlisted in October 1997, and I retired just recently. The effective date was November 2022. Paperwork was filed a little bit before then.
Okay, when did you get married?
It was March 15, 2002. So five of my 10 years active duty were before I met Jennifer.
Mr.
Or
Wilson,
before we got married.
you're cutting out pretty significantly. You're
Yes, ma'am.
let's try it. Otherwise, I don't know if you're on Wi-Fi or plugged in, but we're not hearing everything you're saying very clearly.
Okay. I can try and get on my phone if that would be better.
No, let's just keep going. I'll let you know if we can't hear it. All right. So do we have an understanding that all of both his retirements will be divided according to whatever division I give, or according to the formula, the months of marriage? Now, let me, Mr. Wilson, all your 9 years with the state, were you married?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's easy enough. Go on, Ms. Combs.
Did you cancel your health insurance while you were during this divorce?
Negative. The last time I went to training the reserves at Pacific Command, which is in Hawaii, was January 2020 before COVID. I had trouble getting out there due to COVID restrictions. So retirement paperwork was filed in, I believe, early October 2022. And I've sent you the documents with my retirement paperwork, filing date, and transfer paperwork. And the insurance that is in question was TRICARE Reserve Select, of which Jennifer and Isabella were my dependents. That obviously won't continue with me being moved into the retired reserve. It'll kick in again when I'm 60. That's how TRICARE works.
Okay, so it was canceled because you retired?
Yes, that's right.
But don't you have state insurance?
I do have state insurance. That is free to me. And they have never been on that plan. They were always on TRICARE Reserve Select because it costs $250 a month. And the state insurance for dependents is over $1,000 a month.
Okay, so while you were married, they were only on the TRICARE plan?
That's correct. I specifically had that TRICARE plan to cover their medical bills. And I stayed in the military extra years to provide them that benefit.
Okay, and what are you asking to be done with the house?
It seems fair to me that home needs to be sold as quickly as possible through mediation and other offers. Offer this. The home was valued at roughly like 200,000 more over the summer when we were trying to sell it, and in September, and it just keeps going down. So I think that, you know, if she can leave the home and I can handle the sale, then we can split the profits very quickly.
Okay, and what are you proposing as the split of the profits?
After realtor fees and any, you know, we owe for property taxes because I had forbearance after I moved into my new place, after living with my mom for almost 6 months. So after that's caught up, I say 50-50 seems fair.
Okay, and then are you asking that she vacate the residence so it can be sold?
Yes, I feel like, you know, there might be a situation where the realtor wants to show the home. I don't know if she's now cutting hair out of the home or what the situation is, but I just think she would make that difficult. It would be easier to just have the home vacant so the realtors can show up whenever they want. We can do a quick sale before the forbearance ends and the home is foreclosed upon.
Okay, hold on. There's in forbearance. You quit paying the payments. She hasn't been paying the payments. How long has it been in forbearance? When's it going to be foreclosed upon?
It was in forbearance starting in September, and I have till August or through August. It's either in August or through August that the forbearance plan, which is under VA loan, will expire. And I kept, you know, obviously I paid that as long as I could, but once I moved into my new place, I couldn't live with my mother because she moved into an over 55 place, and you can't have people under 55 over there. So I had to get my own place, and I got the cheapest place I could get, Judge. It's a small apartment.
Ms. Combs?
Thank you, Judge. Do you believe that the parties can come up with a realtor, or are you asking that the court come up with that, or the attorneys?
I don't see us being able to agree, as I've proposed several. I think it would be more beneficial for the court to order a realtor, and that way, you know, nobody's having a benefit of. We have a lot of friends that are realtors and things like that.
Okay, and how are you proposing that the debts and taxes and assets be divided?
You know, kind of as we put in our order or offer that was on record. We've had, as I said, separate checking accounts and separate debts. And if you look at the actual debts, they're about equal. So, you know, I think it seems fair that she keeps her debts, the ones in her name. I keep my debts, the ones in my name, and we can both use whatever profits we can get from the home towards those debts. So she would keep those, and obviously for last year's taxes, we can file separately, but I don't want any, you know, I don't want any interest in her on business. That's hers to keep.
Okay, and then how are you proposing that the vehicles be divided?
She has a possession of a 2019 BMW X3 that's in her name. That I believe she, you know, owes less than it's worth. I have possession of a older BMW, a 2015. It's in my possession that is worth probably a third, maybe, of the note on it. But I propose she keep her vehicle and I keep mine. They've always been separate, and that would just seem reasonable to me.
Okay. And are you asking for attorney fees in this case?
I think we should both pay our own attorney fees. You know, I've been with you the whole time. She's changed attorneys 4 times. That was a choice she made that made this take longer and prevented us from being able to sell the home and both make at least $100,000 profit over the summer.
I pass the witness, Judge.
Mr. Sam.
Good afternoon, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Wilson, is it true that you recently had a car or vehicle repossessed?
Yes.
And what vehicle was that?
Was it 29 or 20? It was a Volvo XC90.
I'm sorry, you're cutting out a 20 what Volvo?
2013 Volvo XC90.
Okay, this is getting worse. I'm going to ask you to log. Are you on Wi-Fi or are you plugged into the internet?
I'm on Wi-Fi. I don't know that I have a cable to plug into my router. I have Google Fiber, so I'm not sure why it's not, you know, working correctly.
Well, now it's working. We're going to try one more time, but if I keep missing half of what you're saying, this isn't going to work. So
maybe I need to be closer to the
I don't
microphone.
think that has anything to do with it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a 2013 Volvo XC90.
Okay. And during the marriage, who was making payments towards this vehicle?
Well, the way that was working was my daughter was going to school using my my VA post 9/11 GI Bill benefits, and we had an agreement that I would take some of the money out because she wanted a car while she was in college at Colorado State, and she had a job at a salon, is what she told me.
That didn't answer the question. Who made the payments on it?
The loan was in my name, and some of the funds were coming out of the post 9/11 GI Bill benefits. So I was taking care of that for our daughter.
And did you stop making payments for this vehicle?
After about 2 months after, 2-3 months after I found out that she dropped out of school and had actually been lying to me and my family for a year and a half, and she had been using those benefits to go to cosmetology school in Colorado and was no longer getting paid while she was telling me she was in school. And the VA was just delayed in giving her money. So I had to stop making payments as I could no longer afford them.
So in short, you stopped making payments, correct?
That's correct.
And when about did you stop making payments?
November or December.
In 2020?
End of last year. Yes, sir.
And do you have an approximate value of what that car would go for?
Well, I don't know, but I know that the note that's on my credit report is I owe $17,000. It's a Bridgecrest loan that I got through Carvana. So it might have been worth 10 or 15, but I know that the note is worth a little over 17,000. The loan.
And you stated that you did not know about the small business loan that was taken out until this case began. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay. So you had no idea that she took out a loan while the two of you were married.
that's correct.
And can you answer how were you able to pay off certain debts while you were married?
I work. I know that my dad gave me a loan before we bought the home of $25,000 because I was in a credit counseling program, and so I've been making payments to him to try and keep my debts under control.
Did the two of you go on any vacations after she received this loan?
No.
At the date of separation, did your wife have health insurance?
I was still in the reserve at that point in time. Yes.
And you stated that you did have the opportunity to provide state insurance once the current health insurance expires. Is that correct?
Honestly, I don't know. I've talked to my HR department, and you have to have dependents to add them, and they're aware of what's going on with the divorce being pending. So I don't think I would be able to add Jennifer to my insurance plan through the state.
Yes, you would have if if her insurance was cut off from the military, you would have. But here's what I've got to say. When did that happen? If there's no insurance and there were medical bills, they're community debts and they will get divided and everybody will pay a share. And if she knew she didn't have health insurance, she had several lawyers, she should have come to court and asked that he be ordered to put her on the health insurance. But none of that happened and I can't fix it now. Right?
Understood.
Mr. Wilson, in April of 2022, do you recall the police being called to your residence?
No.
Okay. Were you aware of an ambulance being called to your residence?
No.
Was there not an incident where you threw Mrs. Wilson to the floor?
No, there was not.
Mr. Wilson, is it true that you net close to $7,900 a month?
I believe it's $7,300 after net.
Okay. And you said you're renting a current apartment. You stated that it was $1,500 a month. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And is it your statement today that you don't have the ability to pay off the rest of your bills? That you require
What's the question?
$200 you're required to pay off the rest of your expenses?
I have debts, as I indicated. I have a car payment. I have groceries. I have insurance. I have bills, and I have debts that I'm trying to pay down after leaving, paying the mortgage, and having moving expenses.
For instance, the living spaces, when was that created?
Wait, what now?
You've listed a living spaces debt. When was that created?
I moved into this place in August 13, right before my mother moved into her over 55 place where I could no longer stay for free.
So you bought a bunch of new furniture?
I had no furniture. I have to sit on something and sleep on something.
Okay. You've listed an Apple debt for $7,280. Is that correct?
That's an Apple credit card, yes.
Okay. And what was that for?
I was when I was having trouble making payments on the mortgage and while not living there, and also having to pay for Isabella's car, and I covered several months of her rent and her car payment when I thought she was still in college and she didn't get her VA loan.
Would it be fair to say that a lot of these debts that you're factoring into what you need to pay are debts that were incurred after the date of separation?
Some of them are, yes, that's fair.
Okay, so to an extent, you had quite a bit of expendable income. And instead, you took out, would it be fair to say you took out a bunch of debt that you now have to pay into?
I don't think that's a fair assessment. I left the home. I was paying mortgage, utilities, and I was covering my daughter's car payment, rent, and insurance, and cell phone, and all the other things for the family. And I was put in a bad position financially. And I tried to sell the home multiple times over the summer and make us money where neither of us would have debt. And she refused to negotiate and refused to move forward with the sale of the home. She's also been living rent-free while not giving me any money towards the mortgage or any of the other bills. So I don't know what's going on with her debt, but it seems like that should be easy for her to resolve with her successful salon business to me.
You've listed that you spend $300 on electric and water per month. Is that accurate?
300 electric, yeah.
And what's the size of your apartment?
It is like 1,200.
And you pay $200 on your telephone per month?
Hold on. Electric, water, that includes cable and internet. The telephone is about 200 a month. Yes, that's through AT&T.
You stated that you spend $300 in electric and water, and you pay $200 on TV and newspaper.
Then I made a mistake. I apologize.
Okay, so you think that number for electric and water would be much less?
Probably more like 150.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Cummings, do you have anything further?
No, Judge.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson, you may continue yourself. Ms. Cummings, your next witness.
Judge, I think, actually we can just move on to Mr. Sam.
Do you rest?
Yes, Judge.
Thank you. Mr. Sam, your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would like to call Jennifer Wilson.
Ms. Wilson, if you would unmute yourself and raise your right hand to be sworn. Unmute yourself first. Bottom, there you go. Put up your right hand. Thank you. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. You may proceed, Mr. Sam.
Good afternoon, Ms. Wilson. Ms. Wilson, what was your date of marriage?
March 15, 2001. Yeah.
So the two of you were married for roughly 21 years, is that correct?
Yes.
And what was your date of separation?
On April 2nd, that evening, Jeremy left me after he pushed me into a stairwell. And
Hold on, he asked the date, April 2nd of what
I
year?
believe it was April 7th is when he actually moved out voluntarily
Of what year?
of 2022.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Sam.
And Ms. Wilson, what was your reasoning for the end of the relationship?
I was a victim of domestic violence. He pushed me into a stairwell. I was paralyzed on the floor, crying for help. He then proceeded to pick me up, put me on the couch, take my cell phone, and leave me all evening long. I managed to get to a neighbor's house when I actually was able to walk, and she had told me that she and her husband.
Objection, hearsay.
sustained.
Or
You can't
add-
hold on, Ms. Wilson, there was an objection. When you hear an
Sorry.
objection, stop. The objection was to hearsay. It is sustained. You may not say what a neighbor said.
Okay. So she ended up calling the cops, and the police, the ambulance and the firemen, and they had to carry me back to the house. So that's my reason why I wanted to leave him. That was the last time he was going to abuse me, which I have on record several other abuses and doctors and pictures. And I've got x-rays
Ms.
and I've got
Wilson,
MRIs.
Ms. Wilson,
Okay, I'm sorry.
listen to his question and simply
Yes, ma'am.
answer his
I'm sorry.
question.
This is very emotional for me because I'm having to relive this whole incident.
I understand, and we'll get through this, but I just need you to listen to his question and answer that, please.
Yes.
Ms. Wilson, did you call the police that night?
I had no phone because he took it from me. So my neighbor called for me.
Okay. And did the police show up?
Yes.
Okay. And did an ambulance show up?
Yes.
Okay. And then what transpired?
They checked me out. There was 3 policemen, I believe, and they carried me back into the house where they wanted me to have Jeremy arrested. And I was so shocked after 20 years of marriage and being pushed and injured. My bruises showed up right away. And I was in shock. So I didn't file the police report. I do have a case. I do have a detective. So that's what happened.
And was Mr. Wilson, to your knowledge, made aware of the fact that the police were called?
Yes, I have a text message where I told him that the police were called.
Okay. And has this injury affected your ability to work?
Yes,
How so?
I sustained an arm and back injury and whiplash in my neck. I can no longer hold my arms up for more than a 3-hour period, which makes it very, very, very complicated to do at hairstyle.
And did you seek medical assistance for these injuries?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And was any of this medical assistance after the date of separation?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And how much in medical bills roughly did you incur due to this injury?
I have what I found in Humana, which was, I believe, 20. I'm roughly saying it. I think you got the numbers like 2,100. I also had to go and pay for my doctor visits, my chiropractor, and my deep massage that I didn't add in there. But I would say another maybe $2,000 if I had to roughly guess, along with physical therapy that I paid $28 a month a time I went.
How much do you currently net with your hair salon per month?
I would say about 2,600 to 3,000. Go ahead. I'll just answer the question.
And how much are your monthly bills roughly?
Right now, my salon rent in and of itself is $1,700 a month. My hair products alone are about $800. I am currently paying for the electric, the gas, the water, and then all of my credit cards. I would say I'm about 5,000, maybe 6,000.
Okay. So as it stands, do you have the ability to support yourself and pay?
No, I don't.
But you're making 2,600 to 3,000 a month from your hair salon.
Yes, ma'am. And I pay. Yes, ma'am.
When did you take out your SBA loan?
I was trying to look, you actually have all the paperwork for that. It was the year COVID hit. It was a month after, as I said, Jeremy had a horrible debt collection. So he put all the credit cards in my name because I had good credit. And then he proceeded not to help me pay. And during COVID, when the state shut me down for 4 months, 3 months, I asked for a loan and I paid off every single one of those credit cards, helping me to just stay ahead afloat because I had no financial help from anybody.
And were those credit cards in whose name?
They were all in my name because Jeremy went into a debt consolidation program and he had horrible credit and couldn't get a credit card.
So those credit cards in your name, were they paying off community property debts?
Yes.
And when you took out the loan, was Mr. Wilson aware of this?
He was very aware of it. Yes.
And did the two of you use any of these funds for entertainment purposes?
The funds from the SBA loan?
Correct.
No. It was all to handle the debt that I could not pay because I was shut down from my job.
Was it a PPP loan?
No, it was not a PPP loan. It was, I can't remember exactly what the loan was right now.
It wasn't the kind of loan that the government gave during COVID and that you could get forgiven if you kept your business open?
No, it was not that. It was not a forgivable loan.
Why didn't you take out that kind of loan?
I didn't because for tax reasons, and it was for tax reasons.
That doesn't make a lot of sense, but go ahead.
Okay.
I don't know why anybody wouldn't take out a forgivable loan for tax reasons.
I know. I agree with you. In hindsight, I definitely agree with you.
The two of you each have a car in your possession, is that correct?
I have a car. I have one car in possession. Mm-hmm.
And would it be your decision to maintain that vehicle?
Sure. Yes.
And did Mr. Wilson take any belongings when he left the household?
When he left the house yes. He took a lot of belongings actually.
Can you describe what he took?
Sure, he took a Tempur-Pedic mattress, the king bed, 2 TVs, the computer, bookshelves, all my books, a whole entertainment center, 2 PlayStations, 2 sound bars. I'm trying to think what else he took. I think that's about it.
In your opinion, did he take enough stuff to furnish a 1,200 square foot apartment?
Yes, he absolutely did. And can I say this? The locks have never been changed, and Jeremy left on his own will.
Objection, non-responsive, Judge.
Okay,
Sustained.
sorry.
Ms. Wilson, did you ever change the locks at your household?
No, I did not.
Did you ever prevent Mr. Wilson from coming back to the house?
No, I did not.
Your Honor, I was going to attempt to share an exhibit because I'm on a newer computer. I'm trying to learn this on the fly.
This Chambers share screen is enabled. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I have to find this exact exhibit. I had it pulled up on my other computer. This is exhibit R19. Your Honor.
Yes.
Ms. Wilson, do you recognize this picture?
Yes,
Who took this picture?
I took that in a mirror.
And when did you take this picture?
When did I take this picture? It was probably within the week of the injury. I think Jeremy was on vacation at the time, so I sent it to him.
What injury are you referring to?
I'm referring to the injury where Jeremy pushed me into a stairwell and I fell back on my back and my arm.
And was this the injury where you called the police?
Yes,
And is this the injury that caused the two of you to separate for good?
yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Combs.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Wilson, how are you paying for your hair salon?
I pay out of the income that I make.
Okay, and how much do you make?
I roughly take home about $2,600 after salon supplies, house, rent.
So before that, how much do you make?
I would say about 5,000. Sometimes it varies depending on, COVID has really affected my business. So between COVID and having I cannot work as many hours as I can. I've had to take off very many days because of the pain and the suffering that I've been through, and actually
So,
just being traumatized by the whole incident.
Approximately how much did you make in 2021?
I would actually have to look at that. I'm actually not sure. Like I said, it very, very much varies. 2021 was probably a very hard year because COVID shut me down. So it really just depends on the year. I could go back and find that information for you.
Okay, and how do you get paid?
I do Venmo and I do trips. And occasionally some of my men will give me like cash, but that cash is very rare right now. No one takes it, to be honest. And I don't like to get it because no one takes it anymore.
Okay, and you said tricks?
Tricks, Venmo, and checks.
Okay. And you haven't provided any of that in your income information in Discovery, correct?
Yeah, I'm sorry. My lawyer yes. There were several reasons why he's not my lawyer anymore.
So we don't really have any documentation as to your actual income, correct?
Yes, my battery is running low. Let me find out if I can, and this is not my computer. Let me figure out how to plug this thing in. This is all very new to me. I don't sit in front of a computer, obviously.
One has to wonder why we agreed to do Zoom.
I don't know. I agree.
And would have been better if y'all had all come down to the courthouse.
I agree with that. Can I leave the room for a second to find out and see if I can get the plug? Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Whatever we do, I'm going to direct the attorneys. I need a spreadsheet to work off of. Neither of you did a spreadsheet with everybody else's information on it. So I'm going to direct the attorneys when this is over to work on a spreadsheet with all of the assets and debts on there. I realize that there may be disagreements as to value, but I'm going to be hard pressed to make a property division
Let me see.
the way you all presented this.
I'm sorry. This is horrible. Like I said, this is not my computer, and I'm so sorry for this. Zoom is horrible. My goodness. Okay.
It works pretty well if people know what they're doing.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't sit in front of a computer at all.
I wish you maybe thought it's too bad you didn't go down to your attorney's office and had it taken care of.
I know they all have COVID over there, so that's not really what I wanted to be subjecting myself to again. Can I turn the computer off, get my girlfriend to plug into this computer? She's outside. Do you mind?
Get assistance to plug in the computer or we'll have to stop the hearing.
Are you serious?
If your computer goes off, I don't know how I will continue the hearing without you.
So I can go get her? Is what you're saying?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Really, these, you attorneys were not, neither of you got this very well teed up for a Zoom hearing.
No, I'm sorry. Okay, come in.
Your Honor, my paralegals indicating that we did send over a spreadsheet via email.
And when was it sent and to whom was it sent?
Okay, good. Sorry about that. Thank you. I'm so sorry.
All right, are you plugged in and you can?
I'm plugged in. I'm ready to go.
Mr. Samp, do you know? When was, oh, it was told there is a file. Well, if somebody has, if you have a spreadsheet, it sure needs to be probably introduced. It wasn't part of your pre-trials as well, I was looking at that.
Correct.
Go ahead with your examination, please.
Thank you, Judge. Mrs. Wilson, how much is your rent at the salon each month?
It's $1,700.
So you make $5,000 a month, but you're saying that you can't live off of that. Is that correct?
I'm saying that I do not gross $5,000 a month. Yes, I cannot live off of the income that I'm making, and it varies from week to week depending on how much I can work because of my injury and COVID.
How did you split the bills before?
My husband has paid for everything. He paid for the mortgage for the last this house for 2 years, and previous to that, the apartment, he's paid for the electric, the gas, the utilities, the water, our health insurance. And the only thing I paid for was car insurance and my salon. And then I took on all the credit card debt so that he could repair his his credit score, and to buy this house.
Okay, so you stated that he basically paid for everything, and you paid for car insurance, your salon, and some.
And my car payment.
Okay.
Yes.
So where did the rest of your money go if you weren't contributing to the debts of the community property?
My debts, just on a monthly basis to pay for my debt, which is about, what did we figure out, 20 something thousand. My interest rates are very high. And so they were at least $1,000 minus 1,700 minus I paid for the groceries. I paid for food. I paid for all of our, movie nights, going out, clothing, paid for my daughter. I've given her over $5,000 recently. You just spend it on living. And for the record, my daughter's living in this house with me right now.
And how old's your daughter?
My daughter's 20, and she has been forced to move here because she got her car taken away, and her phone card taken away, and her VA loan taken away. So she's forced to move to Texas.
Okay, but she's an adult, correct?
She is an adult.
And the Volvo that was repossessed, was that her vehicle?
Yes, it was.
Okay. So your husband was paying the car payments on her vehicle?
My husband was taking money against my daughter's will out of the VA loan that she got because she was going to college. And he made her pay $300 and something a month. And she paid that for a year. And then when she could not get the VA bill again, he stopped paying for the car and it got repossessed out of our driveway. Unbeknownst to my daughter, so she has no vehicle to get to work and school right now. I have been driving her everywhere. We have one car.
Mrs. Wilson, if you can just please answer the question, not
Sure.
add on more. So she was paying for her own vehicle, but it was in Jeremy's name, is that correct?
Yes, she told me that he would not put it in her name,
Okay,
but the
thank
money
you.
was out of her stipend.
Okay. And you stated that Jeremy took belongings when he left the house, a mattress, king bed, 2 TVs, bookshelves, 2 PlayStations with sound bars. Is that correct?
Uh-huh. And one computer.
have
Mac
a-
computer.
Do you have a refrigerator?
Yeah, that was with the house when we bought it.
But it was left with the house?
The refrigerator was in the house when we bought the house.
Okay, but you still have the refrigerator, right? In the house?
Yes.
You still have the stove?
Yes.
Do you still have the couch?
Yes.
So out of
I
all
bought
your
the couch.
belongings,
I actually bought the couch. It's on my credit card. I bought the couch during our marriage, and I actually paid it off. So that he's never been not able to come to the house and get a couch.
okay, so in all the belongings that you have, the only thing he took was a mattress, a king bed, 2 TVs, bookshelves, and 2 PlayStations and a Mac computer, correct?
And a Mac computer. That's all he took. He could have taken way more. He has a chair of mine. He has a coffee table of mine. He has 3 pieces of art of mine that he took from the storage unit that are mine, that I bought. And also, I had to replace a washer and dryer, and I had to replace the garbage disposal. And there is mold in our air
Okay,
conditioner.
Mrs. Wilson, if you could just answer
Okay,
the
I'm
question.
sorry, but maybe these things are important.
Mrs. Wilson, on your medical bills, they were not provided in Discovery, so have you provided them on your new disposition of issues sheet?
Yes.
Okay, so that's included in your credit card debt?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
On what credit card?
This is my through Humana Medical. When Jeremy took
You
me
said
off
it
of
was on a
insurance,
credit card. My question to you is, on what credit card are the medical bills?
no, I didn't. I have not paid the medical bills because I
Okay.
cannot
And
afford
her
to.
question was, they're not listed on your proposed disposition of issues and I don't see them. That's what we're trying to figure out.
Okay,
So they're not listed, are they?
I'm sorry. I gave them over to Skylar, and I will tell you this. I did
Hold
not
on.
know I had.
No. Just answer my question and don't tell me anything else. And Ms. Combs will ask you questions.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mrs. Wilson, what else do you pay off your credit cards?
They were all living expenses and stuff that we did as a married couple. This was all debt that I accrued while we were married.
So on your current credit card debt, what expenses are on there?
Vacations, couches, furniture, art, dinners, movies, date night with my husband, groceries.
I'm gonna stop you right there, Mrs.
Okay.
Wilson.
What else do you put on?
What did you put on your credit card within the last year?
I probably maybe $1,000, if that. They were all there before he left the house. He left with no debt. It was all in my name.
Okay, and how do you pay for your salon rent?
I pay out of my Venmo account, or I write him a check actually, out of my checking account.
Okay, pass the witness, Judge.
Mr. Samp, do you have any further questions?
Just a few brief questions, Your Honor. Ms. Wilson, on page D of your proposed property divisions, you state medical bills, 2,165. Does that sound accurate?
Yes.
On page what?
D?
D?
Correct.
I printed it out. I don't see a D. Can you be more specific? I see page 1, page 2, exhibit A.
One moment, Your Honor.
And these are the ones that were in the court's file, that were filed on 3/3. My staff will correct me. The only thing that I've been sent via email is from Mr. Wilson. I don't have any spreadsheet or anything else. My staff will correct me if something else got there.
I believe there was one that was filed on 3/7, Your Honor.
Well, let me get to.
You filed a new one, Skylar?
If there was one filed on 3/7, it hasn't made it to the court's file. If you were filed with the district clerk, the last thing that's in the court's file is 3/3.
Ms. Wilson, do you remember stating on a proposed property division that you had a debt of medical bills in $2,165?
Yes.
Okay. Does that sound accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And you stated that you have not paid off any of that. Is that correct?
No.
Okay. You were asked if you still have a stove. If the house is sold, will you still have a stove?
No.
No further questions.
Ms. Combs.
Yes, Judge. Mrs. Wilson, why haven't you sent over the medical bills in your discovery?
I just became aware actually that I had them because I went up to Camp Mabry and tried to figure out when I can get on TRICARE, and I can't because Jeremy went into a specific gray area that will not allow me nor
Okay,
Okay, but you haven't sent them over, correct?
I send that to him. He's got them. They are all lined up.
To
I
them.
can send them over right now.
No, hold on. First of all, has there been discovery exchanged? Was it responsive to something? And let's look at that. When was it due? And have they been provided?
Yes, Judge.
Do you know the answer to these questions as well?
I sent them over
Ms.
to
Wilson,
Oh,
I'm
is it
not
me?
speaking
I'm
to
sorry.
you right now.
I'm sorry.
Yes, Judge, discovery was done. Both parties responded to discovery. We didn't have anything regarding her income. First discovery, she stated she didn't have income. Second discovery, she stated that she had the hair salon.
Your Honor, if I may, when we jumped on the case, we asked to reopen discovery because there was such bare bones facts on both sides. That was not in agreement with the opposing side, and they wanted to move forward with trial, and here we are.
Right, Judge, because discovery was open for years.
Nonetheless, if I need to know, yes or no, was there a proper discovery request for which medical bills would have been due? And were they provided?
Yes and no, Judge.
Mr. Sam, do you agree with that? And I see that your office set this hearing today. The notice of trial setting was signed by Ms. Nguyen on February 21st. So I need to know, Mr. Sam, if that's true. Do you actually have medical bills, and were they sent to Ms. Combs before today?
Your Honor, I honestly have no idea. The first hearing we appeared at was to try and continue the trial date, and we were denied. And then we set the trial date per agreement. So I don't even know. I can ask Ms. Wilson to provide the
Well,
answer.
actually, there was a continuance of a February setting.
Correct, because we were just retained and we asked to reopen discovery.
And the day after that hearing, with the same day, you filed the notice of hearing for today, and happen, but I still have to get to here's the deal. If there's a proper discovery request and they haven't been sent, whether timely or not, can I consider them? I think, well, all right, go ahead. Let's finish. Ms. Combs, what other questions do you have?
I passed the witness, Judge.
Mr. Sam?
Ms. Wilson, when you just testified, you said you were not aware that you had the medical records. Is this true?
Yes.
And when did you find that out?
I just went up to TRICARE on Wednesday to get my daughter a new ID card, and I talked to the TRICARE representative up there, and she told me how to log into the HumanaWare website, and that's when I discovered that I had all of these medical bills that I did not even know that were accruing from the date of when my TRICARE got cut off.
Mr. Sam, do you have copies of those medical
Yes,
bills?
ma'am, I do.
Miss Wilson, I'm not speaking to you.
I'm sorry. I'm
Mr. Sam.
thinking more. I'm sorry.
Your Honor, we received these all at the 11th hour. We're talking less than a day.
It's a yes or no question.
I think we've received them. We received a ton of information from Ms. Wilson in the last 2 days.
But clearly, if you've just received them, you haven't sent them to Ms. Combs.
I don't believe so, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. All right, Ms. Combs, what else do you have?
Just briefly, Judge. Mrs. Wilson, were you aware TRICARE was cut off in September 2022?
No, ma'am.
You didn't have your attorney email about the TRICARE being cut off?
No, ma'am.
No further questions, Judge.
Mr. Samp, anything further?
No, Your Honor.
Right. Mr. Samp, you said earlier, your legal assistant said that you had sent a spreadsheet. Where was it sent? Because I don't see it, nor do I see any updated,
Judge,
draws.
Judge, it's in the hearing folder for you.
I just looked at the hearing folder. Did it just get moved over there?
No, if it's not there, I'll email it to you.
And all I have is under Wilson, and it says Jeremy Wilson, tax return, January pay stub, and proposed disposition of issues. There's nothing. So am I missing something?
Yes, ma'am. I'll send it to your email.
Because I don't have that. All right.
It looks like, yeah, it was sent to Victoria Chambers, Travis County at 11:51 a.m.
Okay. That's why I was asking earlier if I've missed something, Ms. Chambers, because I don't. It's not there.
Apologies, I had Teams shared. I didn't know if you had saw it.
You had what?
I sent you a message through Teams to let you know it was there. Apologies. I emailed it to you though.
All right. Do you all right, Mr. Samp, do you have any further witnesses or testimony?
No further witnesses, Your Honor.
I will hear exceptionally brief closing statements.
May I proceed, Judge?
Yes.
Yes, Judge. So it appears that the property should really be split equally. I don't believe spousal support is appropriate in this case. My client's getting around $7,300 a month. Mrs. Wilson's getting around $5,000 a month. It just seems like.
Actually, that was not the testimony. The testimony was she brings home between $2,600 and $3,000. She brings in $5,000 from which she has, that's gross, and she has business expenses. There was no testimony that she makes and lives on $5,000 a month.
Okay, Judge. But she makes more than enough to live within her means. It looks like both parties are living above their means with their expenses and things like that, and paying for an adult child's expenses. But there's really no reason that they should be getting spousal support if she's been maintaining that hair salon for like 20 years. As far as the attorney fees, I believe that both parties should pay their own attorney fees. Both parties accumulated substantial attorney fees. So it's not a huge difference in the attorney fees.
Anything else?
No, Judge.
Mr. Sam?
Your Honor, as Ms. Wilson testified, the reason for the dissolution of marriage was the cause of domestic violence. And she's shown proof that there was a domestic violence issue and that still affects her ability to work today. That combined with COVID, she's pulling in roughly $2,600 a month, whereas Mr. Wilson's netting over $7,000. With Mr. Wilson's rent at roughly $1,500, he has the ability to pay a lot of bills, including to help Ms. Wilson pay her bills. She's well underwater compared to her reporting. She's roughly $7,000 below her budget. And Mr. Wilson, she's testified he's been the primary person paying for most of these bills. Therefore, we do believe that he has the ability to pay. He hasn't paid a dime in interim support. He let a car fall into foreclosure.
Well, I think he did pay some interim support while he paid the mortgage for several months while they were separated.
This is true, Your Honor.
It's been on file for a year and nobody came to court and asked for interim support. I can't undo what's been done. Go ahead.
Your Honor, I find it hard to believe that Mr. Wilson had no idea that his wife took out a substantial small business loan. I find it hard to believe that Mr. Wilson had no idea that their community property debts were being paid off by a small business loan. And I find it hard to believe that he wouldn't know that she was getting some money from somewhere to go out on these date nights and live beyond their means. This is a business loan that was taken out during the marriage. It should be split equally in terms of community property debt. Now, in terms of how those debts should be established, it's clear that it should be disproportionate. Mr. Wilson has the ability to pay more than Mrs. Wilson. Mr. Wilson testified that a lot of the debts that he's claiming take up all of his budget were debts that he incurred after the date of separation. Ms. Wilson testified that he took beds, he took TVs, sound stars, video game systems, took everything that could easily furnish a 1,200 square foot apartment, yet claims that he had to incur a ton more debt to do that after the fact. Those numbers appear to be fudged, and I think truly, Your Honor, he's got a gross amount of expendable income. He's making gross almost $11,000 a month. And my clients couldn't afford medical insurance. Mr. Wilson could have put them on a state plan and tried to get reimbursed down the line. And the fact that some of these medical bills, if not all of them, were incurred because of injuries that she sustained during the relationship, these should be borne by Mr. Wilson. I rest your honor.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to order that the house be sold. I'm going to order that each party come up with, if you can't agree on a realtor, if the two lawyers can't agree on a realtor, within 3 to 4 days, they will each pick a name, 2 names, and send them to me with an explanation of why they want to use that realtor. And I will select. It seems really like a bad idea that people can't agree on the realtor they're going to use. I'm not going to order that she have to leave the house, but if she doesn't cooperate and it gets foreclosed, then nobody's going to get any money. But from here on out, each party is going to be, Ms. Wilson, if you're going to live there, you've got to pay for some of it. You're going to have to pay to live somewhere. Respectfully, the spreadsheet I'm looking at, Mr. Sam, I'm going to have to take both of your pre-trials. Ms. Combs, you didn't even do a spreadsheet, so you haven't helped me at all. But, and I think I took care of the retirement real easily. It's gonna be divided. 50-50, for all the community retirement. There's some of the military retirement that is apparently not community property. It's not being paid now, and unless you all wanted to talk to each other and do something about the retirement, but I guess not since you're here, because there's $97,000 in an ERS plan. It's worth more if you wait until you can pull it out, but Miss Wilson gets her share if she wants to pull it out. She's entitled to. She can once there's a quadro, and it won't affect you, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Samp, you show his BMW debt, I think. Hold on, is that just a credit card? There's a credit card. You don't even show, you only show one car, and that's hers. So I've got to go on the spreadsheet and put his car in. So I can't make the rest of this. Everybody's going to pay the debt in their name because from what I've heard, there's already bad credit all the way around. All of the debt that was incurred during the marriage is going to be part of the community estate and will be split. I didn't have sufficient evidence of statements to show what was owed and when to keep any of it off. I didn't, so it's all going to go on the spreadsheet. Mr. Samp, you have some separate property listed. I didn't hear any evidence about separate property, so I can't make any findings about that. I also, in the spreadsheet I've got, shows that Mr. Samp has the wife getting 211% of the community estate. That's not going to be appropriate. I'll play with it. She may get a little more. She may get 50-50, but I want that house on the market by April 1st. You all have until next Tuesday to agree on a realtor or get me names. Now, the decree will recite that Ms. Wilson will cooperate in having the house shown. If there's a problem with that, you can come back and I may make other arrangements. I'll let you live there till it sells, so long as you cooperate with getting it shown. The first time I hear that that's not going on, then I'll force you to move out because y'all are underwater. I mean, even if we sell this, it's not going to pay off all the debts. The rest of my ruling, I'll get to you as quickly as possible. In the future, Ms. Combs, I need a spreadsheet. And in the future, what's helpful is for the two of you all to work together and get me one spreadsheet, even if you don't agree on the values. So you've left me a lot of work. I would really appreciate if you guys could look at the one spreadsheet that's been done and make sure that, well, if anything's left off, and you could indicate what, I mean, some of these, like Mr. Samp, I have credit card debts from November and December. Actually, I'm going to order the two of you to exchange the most recent credit cards for each of these statements, which should have been done before, so that I know what date all these debts are. Or you get them to me. I'd rather have you two do it and get me that so that I can do an appropriate property division, because I can't tell on here, and I can't tell Ms. Combs from your proposed division any of the dates of the credit cards. So respectfully, counsel, I'm giving you all some work so that I can make an appropriate division. But I will grant the divorce as of today. The divorce is rendered. I will make a more detailed property division. You all can start working on quadros because the quadro will be divided. Ms. Wilson will get her equitable share of the ERS and the military retirement. All right. I would like counsel to get together and by the end of the week, get me, today's Thursday. I have to work Monday and Tuesday next week. By Tuesday noon, I would like counsel to get together and get me a revised spreadsheet that has dates on all these credit card debts to make sure that we've all got the most recent ones. Does that make sense? All right. Thank you all.